In episode number 419 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover the long-awaited DC FanDome.
We also have Ben Affleck's return to the DCEU, which was a nice surprise before FanDome.
And our comic book highlight, as chosen by you, we have Batman: The Three Jokers #1.
All of this and so much more on today's show.
Hello and welcome to the award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am your Emperor Kelli.
And I am Arena Tycoon Daniel.
Arena Tycoon? What are your tycoon-y responsibilities?
There's Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, yes.
There's also Zoo Tycoon.
Yes. I haven't heard about those in a hot minute. You used to like Roller Coaster Tycoon, right?
I loved it, yeah.
I feel like you played that. My brother played Zoo Tycoon. I played The Sims because you could fall in love.
There was also an arena of virtual attendees at DC FanDome, so it all fits this week. It's a perfect fit.
Nice way to tie that back in.
For those of you new to the podcast, the way we format the show is first we go through some news. We head into our Patreon shoutouts, which are thank yous to all of you who make the show possible. We head into our comic book highlight, which is our review for the week. And finally, we end it with the Brokehead Block, which is what Kelli and I have been up to this week.
Before we get into all the DC FanDome news, though, because I know that's what you are all waiting on, we do have some news from Dark Horse Comics, who has signed a deal to publish print editions of digital-first Comixology original titles.
We have a quote here from Dark Horse publisher /CEO /co-owner Mike Richardson, who said, quote, "The Comixology original lines is the highest quality and diverse in its storytelling and talent. Comixology's line of creator-owned comics sits perfectly alongside the acclaimed creator-owned graphic novels that are the bedrock of Dark Horse Comics," end quote.
The initial 4 titles will be collected editions of Afterlift, Breaklands, Youth, and The Black Ghost.
In the past, they had tried to do, I think it was like 8 years ago, some print-on-demand titles that Comixology was trying to do on their own. They ended up abandoning that idea, and instead now Dark Horse, being the publisher that has experience in printing physical editions of comics for many, many years, they're taking those licenses, printing them out, and now reselling them in the direct market. I have a lot of conflicting emotions about this because obviously Comixology is owned by Amazon, which is a huge brick and mortar killer for many businesses out there, not just comic book shops. But I thought that this would be kind of an interesting one to cover because we haven't had something like this from Comixology, at least. I know we have the digital first from Marvel and DC, but this one comes directly from Comixology, which I didn't even know had their own line of books.
I didn't either. So let me make sure that I'm understanding this all correctly. It's creator owned, right? So they're not, are they buying stories off of people, or are they paying people to create these stories?
I think it's a combination of both, and I honestly haven't looked at either, but yeah, it's paying someone either for their story to have it exclusively on Comixology or hiring a team to write original stories on that same platform.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of releasing it digitally first, but I do like the idea that you potentially have people who are able to get their stories out there and create their stories and get paid for it where maybe they initially wouldn't have been able to.
I know we've gotten that with Kickstarters in the past and with digital first only, like The Walking Dead. There was the one by, I think it was Brian K. Vaughan, the Alien story that we had, that they had done. And that one was available for like a year first. And then they did print editions, which is what you and I ended up picking up. I think we reviewed it half a year ago.
I do remember that one.
And now they did a hardcover edition of that same issue. Stuff like that I like because it's stuff that normally people like me who only read in print never would have read that story by Brian K. Vaughan. And now that it was available on the shelves, I picked it up, I bought it, and I read it, and we reviewed it here on the show. So with stuff like this, it is going to present it to an all-new market. I know I can probably sell these to a lot of the Wednesday Warriors who will just see this as a new independent book from Dark Horse Comics may not have any idea that it's a Comixology thing. Depending on how they market this, if it's a Dark Horse edition book or if there's Comixology all over it, that's, I think, what's going to make the difference for me. If it's not returnable, I'm definitely only going to do subs orders because I know this is going to indirectly affect and benefit Amazon in some way. So that's kind of where I'm going back and forth on this. How Dark Horse handles it will make all the difference. I like Dark Horse. I like IDW. I like Boom Studios. All of these indie publishers are doing the right thing and supporting comic shops. So that's why I am willing to at least give these a title, again, if they are returnable.
And if not, and you're interested in these, right, make sure that you get it on your sub at your local comic shop to make sure they order one for you.
Yeah, if you're at all even interested in these titles, the lesser of two evils is to pre-order this at your local comic shop instead of buying it directly through Comixology. So yes, these titles, if you really want to read them, pre-order them at your LCS.
I sense some anger in there.
It's not a platform I like, and I really don't like Amazon at all. So that's something that kind of hurts my soul a little bit, but I like Dark Horse. So it's like a friend of an enemy. Like, I don't know. There's like this weird relationship
The enemy of my
here.
enemy is my friend.
My enemy is a friend of my friend, and I don't know where that goes. So I'm passing along notes like, you tell Comixology this.
I thought you were going to say, you tell Kyle this. I'm like, who's Kyle?
It's not bad enough yet where I'm like, we can't be friends if you're friends with them. That's not the way this works yet. We did get this awesome, great bit of news before DC FanDome. It was a few days beforehand, and I was a little bit surprised that they didn't wait until DC FanDome, but as someone pointed it out on Twitter, it's called building hype, and it definitely did help build that hype right before FanDome.
Ben Affleck. Affleck.
Well, at least you're not saying Affleck anymore.
Would you like to just say his name? Because I can never say it right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that.
I don't know.
Ben Affleck has signed on to reprise his role as Batman in the upcoming The Flash film. Woo-hoo! He is back, no longer not Batman. We had kind of, he had done that Jay and Silent Bob film where he talked about being Batman and kind of gave that so long or whatever speech in that scene. Great scene in the film. But we kind of were all thinking that, there was that huge campaign a few months back of, highlighting every single member of the Justice League, including Ben, and tagging him in the pre-Snyder Cut confirmations of, we want Ben back as Batman. And there were these people saying, well, if he doesn't want to be Batman, then you should just leave him alone. And it's like, it's his fucking decision. Like, we're just showing him that we are there if he wants to come back as Batman. And he has. And there's these stories, they're trying to spin this as this is the last time he's going to be Batman. It's a one-time thing. And it's like, that's all bullshit. We don't listen to that shit anymore. We had heard these same news outlets tell us that he was forever done as Batman and that he supposedly hated the role. But with things changing now, a whole different world in the DCEU with Zack Snyder back in the Snyder Cut. And now we're now fighting for release the Snyderverse, right? Where we want more from this universe.
Right.
Of course, this means that Ben could be back for way more than just the Flashpoint film.
We do have a quote here from director Andy Muschietti, who said, quote, Affleck is a substantial part of the emotional impact of the movie. The interaction and relationship between Barry and Affleck's Wayne will bring an emotional level that we haven't seen before. It's Barry's movie, it's Barry's story, but their characters are more related than we think. They both lost their mothers to murder, and that's one of the emotional vessels of the movie. That's where the Affleck Batman kicks in, end quote.
That is very true, and I think we heard that it was going to be loosely based on Flashpoint with these different versions of Batman that we're getting, such as Michael Keaton's, and now there's rumors that there might be negotiations happening between Jeffrey Dean Morgan and his Batman somehow returning. I hope that's the case, and I hope that Michael Keaton didn't replace him for that role or whatever that position was in this film. But with Bruce Wayne and this Affleck coming back, he's obviously going to have a huge connection to Barry because of their origins and because of what we're getting here is this tells me already that Reverse Flash is obviously going to be the main villain in this film.
This just makes me even more excited for it because when they first announced this, I was like, oh, well, maybe he's just like one of the Batmen, right? Because now we're talking about a whole multiverse of Batman and like, yeah, he could be there. But this to me confirms 100% that he's the main Batman.
This is the Batman for Barry Allen, and that's one thing that Andy also said in
He's
this.
He's the Batman for all of us, Dan.
Well, I think it's really cool that Andy said that this is Barry's Batman, and this already, I think that also cancels out any type of conspiracy of, well, this is going to serve as a relaunch and reboot for the DC Extended Universe, where they can now replace Ben's with the Michael Keaton one, or even with the Robert Pattinson one, and I don't think any of that alludes to any kind of permanent merging of all of these universes. Yes, it's possible that Pattinson will show up in some capacity and different other Batmen, but I don't think this means that this is all just going to be a reboot. I think it's visiting these different universes and then letting it all go back to the way it was in a way where each universe is still going to be separate so that they can make different franchises and each director can mess around with their own universe without worrying about where it fits into anyone else's.
It may even make it easier for us to transition into getting the Snyderverse, right? Because now in fans' mind and people's mind is very clearly, oh, okay, this is just a different universe. It doesn't have to fit together.
Yeah, and if you want the Batman universe, you're going to have that over there. And then if we get future Batman projects from Ben Affleck's, and if we get that Deathstroke film that they've been talking about, that Jay Oliver was talking about, then we can also get that as well. And I think FanDome made that very clear in their presentation, and that's what we're going to get into. The huge thing that was DC FanDome, incredibly successful. Anyone that is a DC Beluga, this is probably like the 18th episode you're now hearing. 18th podcast that's talking about DC FanDome, but the first one you hear the Palpinus talk about and cover as well as your Arena Tycoon Daniel. So let's get into DC FanDome, and these are the highlights. We're not covering every single thing because I know there's one of those projects out there by a certain someone that I don't want to cover or give any attention to. So it's the stuff that we're excited about and the stuff that you guys chimed in, the Brocat Core, which is going to be a lot of fun just to hear and discuss the opinions and thoughts of all of you.
DC FanDome, Hall of Heroes. All fans welcome. 24 hours only. August 22nd. And there's only one place you can experience it at DCFanDome.com.
The first highlight here is the one I know we were all most excited for, and that's Milestone Comics will be returning in February, launching with Static Shock.
The comic publisher was founded by Dwayne McDuffie, Dennis Cohen, Michael Davis, and Derek T. Dingle in 1993, and published through DC Comics as a specialized superhero universe put together by diverse creators.
Jim Lee announced the return of Milestone Comics a few years ago, but creative delays halted the return until now.
The biggest name, I think, out of all of those, that whole universe, Milestone, is Static Shock. I think that's one that you and I are familiar with. We saw the cartoon. I've seen several episodes, not all of them. He appeared in Justice League Unlimited, showed up in Batman Beyond, I think. I might be thinking of the Zeta Project and that crossover, but I know Static Shock is definitely a name that people know. Milestone is one that people were kind of clamoring for over the past couple of years of we need to get Milestone to return, especially during these times. And being someone that's worked in the industry for several years, I can tell you that people don't buy Static Shock books. They didn't buy the last one that came out during the New 52. And I don't know. I'm glad that people are excited for this, but I think a Static Shock, and I think they announced the movie already, a Static Shock movie or show is going to be more successful than a book. I can easily see the Milestone Comics, and this is what I said on Discord, being another thing that gets canceled a year later.
We'll see. I hope they have learned from those things, right? Of people not buying these books and they're really troubleshooting that and making sure they really tested and researched the market before they chose to bring it back.
Do you have any thoughts on Static Shock as a character?
Nah. I mean, I watched his show. It used to come on WB every Saturday morning, and it was in that same lineup with Pokemon and whatever else. So I used to like watch it. I always had my TV turned down real low so my parents would still think I was asleep, so they wouldn't make me get up and do things. And I used to watch all my Saturday morning cartoons. So that's about the most that I know of Static Shock. I did like him, but I mean, with anything, right? My time right now is so limited. It would have to be a really compelling story for me to pick up the comic and continue to pick it up.
We do have a quote here from Brocat Core member at Men Are Still Goo 1, who responded to the story with, quote,
I'm just glad that all the legalities seem to be settled so that the IP can continue to expand in and out of the comics. I'm going to follow the whole line, but I'm very much looking forward to Blood Syndicate, since it was the first Milestone book I ever bought. The only thing I didn't like about the announcement was that Jim Lee didn't say anything about reading the books on DCEU, which makes me think the service may completely shut down and not evolve into a comic reading resource, end quote.
I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of DC Universe at all. The main focus was HBO Max, rightfully so.
Of course.
And I think within the next couple of months, we'll know what the ultimate use or fate for DC Universe is going to be.
I definitely agree with that. I know we haven't been using it as much either. Most of our focus has been on HBO Max, which is a fantastic service, by the way. Just so great.
Prime.
Just the best. It is to the max.
I love it. It's all in the name. They called it and they delivered.
However, I don't know that I personally see DC Universe going completely away. I think they've done a lot of work to put their comics on there, and I don't see any reason why they would eliminate that, even if they merge it with HBO Max. We've talked about it before. Just have a button in there you can click and go to the comic reading portion of it.
I'm glad Men Are Still Goo 1 is looking forward to Blood Syndicate. I remember Jimmy Palmiotti. I'm pretty sure he's been tweeting about this already, but I think he inked or did some covers for the original Milestone comics, some of his earlier work. So we'll see what happens. Again, I hope, I want every book to succeed, but based on the track record of the previous Static Shock handling of the character, I don't see that happening. I think it's going to be one of those characters that gets put into a team eventually, and hopefully the rights are worked out, as they were saying, and they can make him a permanent member of any part of the team and any part of the DC universe.
We also got the announcement of a few video games that I'm so excited for. But the first one, WB Games Montreal revealed the direct spin-off to Arkham Knight, which is Gotham Knights.
For if you try to crush them, then the town strikes you dead.
This one was the surprise, I think, of the video game announcements, because they said it was going to be another video game or something from WB Montreal. We weren't sure what it was, but in this open world game, which is a direct sequel to Arkham Knight, it will be open world, and you get to control Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, and Red Hood as they face off against the Court of Owls sometime in 2021.
According to WB Games Montreal, the story will be original and will not draw from the comics.
A quote here from Fleur Marty, who is the senior producer on Gotham Knights, quote, "It's a completely original story. We're not reenacting any of the existing stories from any of the comics. Gotham Knights' story is fully original," end quote.
The game will feature co-op as 2 players, so you can clear out a room faster or solve puzzles as a team.
As I called the Arkham Knight villain right away when they announced it, I think you called the return of Bruce Wayne in this.
Hell yeah, I did.
So how do they bring him back? Obviously, he's not dead. How do they bring him back?
Of course he's not dead. So spoilers for the trailer, right? Please go watch it, whatever. It opens with a video of Bruce, and he's like, listen, this video's tied to my heart. If it stopped, this is why you're getting it, because I'm dead. And everybody's like, and he go through the whole thing, but then the Court of Owls shows up, and I'm like, they just put him in a little hibernation tube. He's just taking a nap.
He's probably going to be the final boss.
Hell yeah, he is. And then you're going to save him and inject him with something, and he'll be un-Court of Owls-y. But yeah, the whole MO of Court of Owls was they stop their heartbeat. Their heartbeat's so slow. So yeah, that would trigger thinking he's dead, but he's not really dead.
It'll probably end with him recovering, healing, and still sending out the team on missions. I bet you that's going to be like the final scene of the film, or not film, but of the video game, so that the Gotham Knights are still their own team and they're not replaced by Batman now that he's back. You know, I don't see.
You guys are still great.
Yeah, you guys are important to Gotham for sure. We don't need a Batman.
Go stop Killer Croc. I'm going to go solve some real problems.
This will release on the PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and the Xbox Series X.
Were you excited when you saw this? Was it something, if you had all the time in the world, that you would want to play?
I would want to definitely try it out. I understand from what the gameplay was showing, you kind of have to control the different characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have more fun if I played it with a friend or with someone that has the game. But I know there's going to be the one couple of characters that I don't like playing as, the stealth missions or something. And that's going to be the level like Sonic Adventure 2 Battle where, oh man, it's going to be one of those levels. And then you got to play the character. Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's the only thing that has me a little bit off. But I would want to play just to fight the Court of Owls and take on different talons and just see them brought to life in that way.
I would love to see the story. I think that's what I'm most interested in because, and also why is Red Hood there? Because he was definitely evil in the last game, like 5 seconds ago.
Exactly. And now he's like down an alley. Whoa, I feel sorry. Like, I know you kicked his ass and you told him like, you fucking know better. Knock it off, Jason. So I guess at that point, he's like, all right.
Okay, well, now that he's dead, I'll come save things.
Still using his gun, though?
Still killing people. I thought it looked really cool. I'm like the fact that as you play different characters, you're going to play differently, right? And of course, you find the character that you like the most. To me, it looked like Batgirl played the most similarly to Batman because she, of course, has the grapple going through things, and I didn't really see that from any of the others. I'm hoping that Robin is Damian. Really hoping, fingers crossed, probably not. But
not Tim Drake?
I want it to be Damian. How cool would that be?
I do too, but I don't think we saw Damian yet in the Arkham series, right?
I don't think so. Have we seen Tim Drake?
Yeah, Tim Drake was the Robin in the last one.
Fine, it's Tim Drake. I'm going to pretend it's Damian.
He did look younger, though.
Yeah.
He didn't look like Tim Drake.
And he had like his weird
right.
Damian-looking outfit.
But when I saw the staff, that's when I'm like, all right, I guess it is Tim Drake. I do want it to be Damian, and I hope they didn't just merge the fucking two. Just do both.
Damian Drake.
The game that I was really excited to see was Rocksteady's, and I don't think we got any gameplay from what I was able to see. We did get some from Gotham Knights, but in this one, Rocksteady revealed a cinematic trailer for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League.
So, figure out who we're killing yet? Oh, fuck!
The game will highlight a small roster of Harley Quinn, Deadshot, King Shark, and Captain Boomerang as they work to stop Brainiac.
Very much like Gotham Knights, it'll feature a multiplayer mode with up to 4 players set to release in 2022. So quite a ways away still.
When I saw King Shark as one of the characters you could play with, I'm like, awesome, King Shark from the Harley show. That's perfect. Just cracking jokes the whole time.
What'd you think of this team? Because I kept saying it was going to be Deathstroke, especially after that cutscene, and I guess we're not getting that. But these look to be the 4 main players that you're going to use.
I thought this looked really cool. I initially was like, Harley's voice, but the more I watched the trailer, like, it grew on me just a little bit. Still not my favorite Harley, right? Obviously, but not my least favorite Harley.
Well, if it's Tara Strong, I immediately don't like it.
Is it Tara Strong?
I don't know. I didn't look it up, and I didn't want to look it up.
Don't tell me.
I heard some bits of Tara in there when she was like laughing and swinging around. I'm like, this sounds like Dill Pickles from Rugrats, so that's probably Tara.
Anyway, I thought it was really interesting that the way they showed the characters moving around, because obviously they're jumping from like building to building. And so they had to be really creative in how they traverse through the city. So those things were really cool. I mean, obviously the end and who they ultimately have to fight is pretty interesting. So overall, again, it's something that I would love to see the story too, to see how it plays out. And it's going to be like a typical team up game where you're going to have to play as somebody different and, you get different powers, but I would ultimately love to see it be a game where you could play as one character through the whole thing, and then it's just feels different if you go back and do it again. You're going to get a lot more gameplay out of it.
I like the reveal of Brainiac as well being a huge part of this game's plot. It sounds like Amanda Waller is still sending Task Force X out there. And now that the title is called Kill the Justice League, I don't think the plot is anymore trying to just kill Superman.
Right.
I think there's going to be several boss fights that are going to involve different members of the League. I don't know how they got controlled or what ended up happening, but the Suicide Squad's there to save the day.
You notice that Superman got controlled first. I feel that just always happens with Superman. You know who's not going to be controlled? Batman.
Fucking Batman.
They're going to
yeah.
they're going to try to beat Batman, but only because he's Batman. He's not being controlled.
I wonder what at one point this takes place as far as the Arkham universe, because I would assume it's in the same universe, especially since it's made by Rocksteady.
I would assume as well. I mean, who knows? They could literally put it at any time. If you think about it, most of the Arkham games took place in like a day.
Mm-hmm.
Especially was the very first one, Arkham Asylum. That was like overnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
It took us years to beat it, but it was one day. So yeah, they could literally put it at any time. I would imagine it's after the events of all the Arkham everything. But I would be interested to see. I mean, I don't even know if they'll tell us.
I like the hints of gameplay for each of the characters. Like Harley Quinn looks to use her baseball bat and bombs and her gun as well. Deadshot looks to be a more ranged fighter because the whole time, he was using his guns. He was using his rocket booster flamethrower thing,
little
which was really interesting. And then King Shark was, I guess, the bulky character out of all of them. I didn't really see a ton from him. But Captain Boomerang looked to kind of teleport. I don't know if you noticed that, but when he threw his boomerang, he would show up at the end of it and, hit someone with it. And there's
it looked
hints
like
to it.
When he throws his boomerang, it creates like a trail, and it looks like he zooms across that trail to get there too, rather than actually teleporting. Is what it looked like to me.
Just based on those bits, I think I would have most fun with, oddly enough, Deadshot.
Really?
Yeah, like
just zooming around.
Yeah, using his flamethrower and his guns.
Fly up and check everything up, and I'd be like, Danny, they're just telling you to go, and you're like, I'm gonna look up here. I'm gonna fly over here.
Yeah, and I would somehow find the Riddler trophy doing that. Or whatever the equivalent
there aren't
of
even
that.
Riddler trophies in the game, but you would find one.
Yeah. Always the way it goes. Out of Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, is there one of the others that you're more excited for?
It's probably Gotham Knights is what I'm excited for, just for the Court of Owls and the way they kind of had that reveal at the end, and they're so spooky looking, and it very much reminded me of when you had those moments with Scarecrow in the game, and then like you would die and the Scarecrow would come out and he'd be like, you fucking idiot. And or like whatever he would say to you. That kind of horror, right? That kind of, oh man, like this happened and this really scary person did it to me. So yeah, that's the one that I'm most excited for. You.
The story sounds way more interesting in Gotham Knights. So for that, I am more excited for that. But between the two developers, Rocksteady's always kicked ass between all the games. And WB Montreal did Arkham Origins. And it was a solid game, but it was nowhere near as good as the Arkham series. So I know overall, based on the track record, Rocksteady's Suicide Squad is going to be a better game. So I think that one would be more fun to play at least.
Hopefully we'll get the chance to play. If not, we will watch somebody's Let's Play or a compilation of the movie portions.
This is where we get into the movie news of DC FanDome as we ramp up here. But Black Adam's concept art was revealed along with the confirmation of an appearance by the JSA, including Atom Smasher, Cyclone, Hawkman, and Dr. Fate in this film.
I only know 2 of those people.
Well, which one are you most excited to see?
I guess Dr. Fate. What about you?
I think Dr. Fate for sure, if we don't count Black Adam, because Black Adam's going to be really fucking cool in this.
On Twitter, Dwayne Johnson teased that Black Adam could someday be going up against Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but JK, not going to happen.
Do you think it's just him trying to ramp up that hype, trying to get these characters? Do you think any part of that means like, hey, Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are in future projects in some way?
No, I think he's just trying to, because there's no confirmation on any of that. And if there is confirmation, they're not telling Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They're not telling him like, someday you're going to fight Henry Cavill. Like, no, that's way above his pay grade.
So more or less, he's just trying to hype up the character of Black Adam. Like he could go toe to toe with these characters. So watch this movie.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
the cinematic did set up that kind of tragic backstory that this character is going to have in the film, how he fights for his people, for these enslaved people as well, and how he probably ends up corrupt in some way. And I think it's going to set up that story of, yeah, he didn't do the right thing, but he did it for the right reasons.
Right.
I think we're going to get a very sympathetic villain in this.
If this movie does extremely well, could you see it maybe leading into a Sinestro movie at some point? Because, I mean, the two characters and their story and their reasoning is kind of similar.
Without a Green Lantern film, no. If there was one coming out as well, I'd say, yeah, maybe we'll get that. But I don't know. I know the Joker movie probably did a lot for these solo films, but Black Adams was already in the works even before Shazam was coming out. So I think we're just getting that realized in the end. And Dwayne Johnson is such a likable actor that I don't think we ever see him as fully a villain in this.
Right.
But I would love to see a Sinestro solo. I don't see that happening unless Dwayne's also playing Sinestro and can pull in that audience and all of those tickets.
We'll get Joaquin Phoenix to play Sinestro.
Or all those moms like Lucifer now, right?
Oh,
They can get
yeah,
him.
Tom Ellis.
It'd be,
Speaking of
British
Lucifer,
Lucifer,
we got to get to the Brocat block. Speed it along. DC, what?
Are you excited? Is it too early for Black Adam right now for you?
Yeah, there's too much to happen. There's Lucifer.
Right.
You just brought up Lucifer. Why would you do this in the middle of the show? I am excited to see Black Adam. I like the fact that we're getting a sympathetic villain because those are my favorite, because you can have so much more discussion around it, right? When you get to the end of the film and you're saying, oh, well, he did this, and then you're arguing, should he, shouldn't he, whatever. Yes, that's my story.
Well, you wanted to move along here, and we actually got more from the Flash solo film, including concept art that showcased a new suit for Barry as designed by Affleck.
We do have a quote here from writer Christina Hodson, who said, quote, "The cinematic multiverse is going to be born out of this movie," end quote.
It is set to release on June 3rd, 2022.
Ooh.
One of the concept art pieces, which has the Barry's new outfit in it, also showed Michael Keaton's Batman next to him. And I tried to, look at the picture a little bit closer, and it didn't look like an aged Batman, Michael Keaton. So people are speculating that maybe they're aging him down through technology so that he shows up in that 1989 era. And another thing that kind of gives some credibility to that is that the Michael Keaton suit looks exactly the same as it did in 1989. And yeah, that could be nostalgia pandering, like, look, he's still the same Batman and check it out. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't appreciate that. I just don't feel like our aging down technology is where it should be to be aging him back 30 years now. That's a long time. I would much rather see like a beaten down 2020 Michael Keaton who's been through, 30 years as Batman and can really lend a lot of insight, maybe even to Affleck, to just be like, listen, this is what life is going to be like. And even though Affleck's been doing this for a while also, he probably has at least 10 years on him. So that's what I would rather see, rather than say, oh, yep, this is exactly like it was. Like, no, then just take a clip from the movie and be done with it.
We'll find out as we get closer. That's just what we're gathering from those bits of concept. And we didn't really get a great look at the Flash's outfit. It was kind of dark, but you get like the lightning symbols on it.
How did you guys get the CSI Miami technology to super hyper zoom and then it comes out super clear?
It's called pinch in and pinch out on your screen.
There's a reflection in the hubcap of the license plate. And when we zoom in, you can read it perfectly. And that's where we saw Michael Keaton Batman age down.
I'm excited to see what this means for this multiverse that they're talking about. And we'll get a ton more. I still think this is great news for the Snyderverse as well. As we were saying earlier, it just leaves the door open for all of these possibilities.
We also got our first teaser trailer for The Batman, which is Pattinson's Batman.
How am I part of this? You'll see.
This fucking trailer took off like crazy. There's those rare moments where the internet just normally they hate everything, right?
Yes.
But the internet loved this trailer starring Pattinson, and I noticed that it involved a lot of 20-year-olds. So the younger generation, they like this universe. They like this Pattinson. This is going to be their Batman. This is going to be Batman for, I think, a huge population. And everywhere I look, there's memes, there's shares, any people that come into the comic shop, they're bringing up the Batman trailer and not the Snyder cut. So I think that this took the attention for the general audience as a whole, whereas the Snyder cut was more for the fans, the people that were actually following and campaigning for the Snyder cut, which is what Zack said this always was. It wasn't a film for the critics, to please the people out there. This was always a project for the fans. So I think that's why this is, I think, more easily taken with the general audience than what we were getting with Snyder Cut, because I think there's still a lot of confusion as to what the Snyder Cut is, and that's okay, because again, this isn't selling it to the general audience.
I was really surprised this trailer did as well as it did, because I felt it was really dark.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just
I thought they hated the grim dark stuff.
Yeah, right. I watched it and I was like, this looks like a very dark movie. And people are like, it's amazing. What? I'm like, are you the same people who always complain about things being dark? Because the entire tone of this trailer, like there's not going to be any jokes, guys.
Right.
There's not going to be any jokes. So, I will say I'm not a fan of this. It didn't really excite me in the same way that Zack Snyder's Justice League did. I mean, obviously, Pattinson looked okay as Batman, and then he took off the helmet. I'm like, put it back on. I'm not about this. You are not Bruce Wayne. You are, no. What's with the scraggly hair? I don't know. I wasn't about it.
I'm with you. He doesn't sell me as Bruce Wayne, and I don't see him as a Bruce. He did do, and it's hard to pull off both, Bruce and Batman, but his Batman did look solid. I thought the outfit was very Arkham game ish, if that makes any sense. I thought that was really cool, and the costume looks great. If you want, that kind, it fits fine with it. I don't think there's anything really jarring about it.
The thing that I liked about the costume is I felt that it was the most, I don't want to say real, but I guess that's the kind of word I'm looking for. Like his boots are real boots that you go and buy at the store, and there's so many pieces of it that anybody could find rather than crafting it because you're a billionaire.
Yeah, I think this fits more in that Nolan take of the universe where they're trying to make it fit into the real world, as opposed to a more comic accurate Batman like we got with Zack Snyder's universe.
I definitely agree with that. And I will push back and say we didn't really see him as Bruce. We see moments where he takes off his mask or his helmet, whatever he was wearing, but no moments where he's actually taking on the Bruce persona. However, that hair, come on, guys, I can't. It was in his eyes all the time. Yeah, put the black around your eyes, that's fine, but he looked homeless. I'm such a mom. Oh my God. I sound like such a mom.
It's got to be to appeal to the younger audience. There's no way that's for us.
God, I'm old.
He doesn't look like a Batman. It does look like someone, it's someone that relates to the age that's aimed at, and that's all right. I related more to Paul Dano as Riddler. Like, holy shit, like that's, I'm sure all the performances are going to be fine. And obviously we know Pattinson's a solid actor.
Right.
But Paul Dano kind of stole the whole trailer for me. His take on Riddler, and I don't think he's going to be the main villain. It sounds like there's Court of Owls in this as well. So
about time.
It's going to be cool, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be really cool.
It's going to be the best part.
Tons of clues, especially with the gauntlets on Batman's suit looking exactly like a Talon's outfit. So there's probably going to be an origin tie-in there with whoever worked on his suit. Of maybe they were trying to make him one of the Talons initially.
They were grooming him to be a Talon, yeah.
Exactly right. And I think that's probably going to be the story of this. And that's cool. I want to see the Court of Owls on the big screen. I think that's another seller for Warner Brothers, AT&T. That's another trade that we will continue to sell from now until the end of time. And that looks really cool, and we will be there to see it. I'm definitely not hyped for it, but Paul Dano, again, that Riddler is going to be really cool.
I'm appreciative for the hype around this because hopefully that translates into ticket sales, which means we can continue getting these great DC movies that are hopefully darker, and they can shut up about needing all the jokes so we can get what we should have gotten from the beginning.
I also get the message from AT&T that this is the success of the Batman does not mean these days that he's now going to replace any other iteration of Batman on the big screen. I get the feeling that they're okay with, the audience can handle 2 different Batman on the big screen, 3, 4, whatever the multiverse brings us after the Flash movie. I think the audience will be fine if we get a Batman Batfleck series or movie or whatever on HBO Max or in theaters, as well as the Batman solo film.
Well, I think, and we'll get into it shortly when we talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I think having HBO Max there and doing these things just kind of opens up so much for them, right? So, because you can, like you said, have these different universes on that platform and maybe do something where it releases in theaters for a little while before it goes to that platform. And hell yeah, we're going to be there and we're going to see it in theaters. If they ever release Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters, we will put on our diapers and be there for 4 hours. We don't need diapers, guys.
We're adults. That's the MCU sheet.
We will be in those seats for 4 hours, right? And if they do anything like that, where they say, see it first in theaters for 2 weeks and then it's showing up on HBO Max, hell yeah, we'll be there.
Let's cover a little bit more of the Batman trailer. The Colin Farrell, did you even recognize him as the Penguin?
No, is he that real round guy?
Yeah, not the mayor, but he was the one in the car who was like, this guy's crazy. I think that's the only line he has in it, but I didn't recognize him in there. That was amazing, and I'm excited to see his take on the Penguin too. We're obviously getting, I think there was the Maronis were written on one of the newspaper clippings. The Riddler's going after Gotham's elite, and it sounds like maybe even the Riddler might be going after the Court of Owls, knowing fully that they are corrupting Gotham from the inside. So it's possible that the Riddler might align with Batman, even though he's murdering people, he's putting people's lives at risk. I think their goals are going to be united at the end of it.
Isn't the Court of Owls the ultimate riddle? So, see, he should love that.
Do you think they gave it away by having the owl card inside that the Riddler uses? It's like, anyone that knows anything about the New 52 comics would be like, oh shit, the Court of Owls are involved in this.
I think it's fine that they did that. Yeah, they probably did give it away. But one, people who don't read comics aren't going to know. They're going to be like, ooh, what's that owl? Ooh. And two, people who read comics are now going to go, oh shit, it's the Court of Owls. Like if you weren't going to go see this movie, you're now going to go see this movie just because you want to see the Court of Owls because of how fantastic that was set up.
Do you think they'll set up his brother in this film like they did in the comic books?
Oh man, I forgot about his brother. Holy shit.
What if he plays, it kind of looks like Bruce, it's not a twin or anything, but they look related. Do you think they'll get someone that looks like him or even have him play his brother as well through obviously they can do amazing makeup with Colin Farrell's Penguin. But do you think we'll get him also playing an evil version?
I don't think we're going to get his brother. They're not going to do that. Calm down.
Too much? Too much for the audience?
That's too much. It's too much for me.
Well, there's got to be a villain, like, yeah, the Court of Owls, but it's not going to be the court is the villain, do you think?
Yeah, why not? Like, the way, I mean, at least what I remember from the comic book is they were just, like, one unit, right? And the creepiest part was they were everywhere. Like, so many different organizations had somebody from this court who was running it. So, like, what better villain to have than just fucking everybody?
Yeah, but they also had Batman facing off against Lincoln March at the very end of it, as he also had a bat suit-like thing that was made out of the Talons, and once he defeated him, then Gotham was saved for the moment, and the Court of Owls, a bunch of them off themselves, right, as soon as this plan ended, and then the rest of them went underground, and that's when Batman's like, well, when they spring back up, I'll be there, but for now, right.
I don't know. I mean, they're probably, but you still have the Riddler he's got to stop. You still got Penguin who might start doing penguin-y things.
How about Catwoman? We didn't talk about her yet.
Oh, yeah, she's there. They're going to team up. They're going to fall in love. They're going to do it.
Little bit of Catwoman we saw in there. It looked like an early version of the suit, but it still had some of the cat ears. Do you think that's going to be the look, or will she have a full outfit by the end?
I think she'll have a full outfit by the end. It does very much look like she's just starting out and just starting as a jewel thief, but obviously she's going to convert, she's going to help Batman, and then she's going to scoot away after stealing something, and we're going to be like, oh, Catwoman.
People were pointing out the scene in which he takes down the thug and he punches him like 20 times and like, oh my God, that's when they were sold on his Batman, right? And people are pointing out like it takes him 20 punches to take down one guy, whereas like the other Batman, he can take him out in less, but it's fine.
I interpreted that as he was just angry and beating him up because he was angry.
Well, at one point the guy's still standing, and then by the 8th punch, then he's down on the floor or whatever. And people pointed out too that he's punching downward I'm showing you the visual of it, but the way he's punching downward is not how you would actually, if you knew how to punch, how you would punch. And someone that is Batman and has trained wouldn't be punching the guy even in rage in that manner. In fact, that's how you're not really doing a lot of damage when you punch in that way. But it's a little thing. It doesn't really matter. I don't know if people are nitpicking, but that kind of thing took me out of it a bit.
This is also an earlier Batman, though, right? I mean, yeah, I know he's supposed to be trained, but
he's calling it year 2 Batman, and that the HBO series is going to take place in the year 1 continuity.
Well, then he's still learning. It's only year 2. And so, yeah, maybe it does take him like 27 punches to get them down in year 2. And then by like year 30, he just looks at them and they drop dead.
So the reason I think neither of us were as hyped for this as the rest of the internet were is because we got the trailer that we were waiting for. This took all of our attention, I think, especially in our circle of Snyder Cut movement and brokettes that we're following, that have been campaigning for the Snyder Cut for so many years now. And that was the teaser trailer. They're still calling it the teaser trailer to Justice League. Over 2 minutes of Justice League footage. And the perfect song. Zach said he had something better in mind, and we got it. We heard it. It all made sense. It opens up with that shot of Uxas from the history lesson. Give me your thoughts on the trailer to Snyder Cut.
This guy's probably fought hundreds of thousands of other super beings on the other planets he's destroyed, right? And we have to assume he's won.
I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells. He's never fought us. Not us united.
So I've seen this trailer 3 times now, and I get chills every single time. Goosebumps for the whole thing. I think the song was absolutely perfect, even though I continually think of Watchmen.
Yeah, when I hear exactly.
It. But I think that they, when they're picking the scenes to go along with them, it just matches the song perfectly. There wasn't a single point where I was like, no. Absolutely perfect with the beats, with what they show. You can definitely tell that this is going to be a much more serious movie than the one that we actually got. You guys have already used your CSI Miami tricks to zoom in on everything.
Yeah, still doing it.
Probably figured out the whole thing.
Well, the music and the lyrics match the tone of each scene that he also chose. So even the lyrics match there.
I know. But it goes to show how much thought he puts into even this teaser trailer. And maybe even, right, after all this time, to a greater degree than we would have gotten previously. And that makes me really excited to say, yes, this is, his film, but it's for us.
Exactly. It's for the fans. It's for the people that campaign. In the shot of, since we're talking about breaking down shots and everything.
Of course.
The look at Uxas, smart. I love that it just opened with that look. Like, here it is. Here's Darkseid. Looked absolutely incredible. What'd you think of that take, this cinematic big screen version of Darkseid finally after waiting for how long and getting that one mention in Justice League, but here he is.
I thought it was so cool. Like you said, absolutely perfect to open up the trailer that way, because now there is absolutely no doubt that this is what it should have been from the beginning, because it's not, oh yeah, here's this little mention, right? Where you're not going to see him through the whole thing. It's boom, here he is. This is what you're getting. Here's the person who started this all.
And he has a different weapon than what Steppenwolf had. So it wasn't just a simple like swap out or anything. There was a ton of changes that happened as soon as Joss took over. And now we get to see that original vision in here. And Zach did mention that this is Uxas. He's just a baby in that scene.
A baby.
Imagine how he's going to look when he's actually, he has control of at least some portion of the anti-life equation, where he is Darkseid at the end of the film when Steppenwolf's head rolls to his feet.
Super craggly. That's how he's going to look.
I hope so.
He's going to be like the Super Crag from that game show.
Aggro Crag?
There you go.
I hope we get the red flaring eyes at that very end of it. Man, I can't wait to see that part of it. So it's not like, people thinking that's all right. We're gonna get the dark. We still haven't seen Darkseid really. This is Uxas.
Right.
We'll see him in part 4 of the Snyder Cut. In the scene where we're getting that retelling of the death of Superman, he already said that this opens with us seeing that death again, but from Lois Lane and Batman's perspective. So in the back, you even see Wonder Woman from a different angle. So they were able to capture that as well. I don't know when they did or if they refilmed it for the scene, but it just lends again that that thing that Zach was saying, where you can take Man of Steel, BVS, and now Justice League, the Snyder Cut, and edit them all into one long movie with all of the different angles and connections, and it's all still going to match. It's just that attention to detail.
And somebody's going to do it, and you're going to watch it.
Yeah, Zach already said someone should and probably will.
And it will probably be Zach.
I hope so. And then they can package that and sell it to us again, and we'll buy it again.
Yes, you'll kick Leo and I out of the house for like a day and a half, and you'll just watch your movies.
We also got a shot of the Justice League Tower, not the tower, I'm thinking of Justice League Unlimited, but the Hall of Justice in rubble. You get the Aquaman's trident, you get Wonder Woman's sword and shield. Thomas Wayne's portrait is in that rubble too, and then a close-up of the Joker card as well that kind of flashes up on the screen. I hope we get a look at that, but that was more confirmation that the nightmare sequence is going. We're going to get tons of it here.
I like that everybody brings their weapons and Batman just brings his stuff. He's like, I'm moving in, guys. Here's my stuff.
You got to have Thomas Wayne in there.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Yes, I definitely think this means that we will get the completion of that nightmare scene. And then, of course, you see the Flash in...
Speed Force?
In the Speed Force. I was
Cosmic Treadmill, maybe?
Yeah, whatever he is. He's running around. So, yeah, I think that's just, again, confirmation that those things are going to happen. He's going to go back in time so that he can stop it.
I was just thinking about the portrait thing, but that, from if it's anything like what we got at the end of Justice League, it still takes place on Bruce's property, right? Because they're going into a different portion of his land, and that's where he says we need 7 chairs, room for more, and I thought that was Bruce's place, so it makes sense that it's going to have portraits of the Waynes in there.
I thought he was just bringing his stuff. He was just moving in.
You talked about the Flash, and it seems like we got tons of hints of him changing and fixing the timeline that Zach said we get in this when they initially try to break up the mother boxes.
Yeah, a lot of the Flash, a lot more than I thought we were going to see from him, but it looks really cool where he is, right? And the very first time you see him running through there, he looks confused, like, which way do I go? And then he looks much more confident by the end of it. So I think it's going to be several times that we see him stopping in different portions or going back or trying to undo all of this craziness.
All the different things that maybe happen throughout the film. I don't know how many people he ends up saving. We know he saves Superman and Cyborg at the very least. I love the way that they're doing the Speed Force in this, where it's the whole world is shifting back and forth. It's not necessarily him moving. And then when he was running and they took that footage from the end of Justice League where he's running through the street or whatever, and Omni pointed out how lazy it looks in the theatrical version of the film, and when you actually see where that original footage was supposed to be in Zack Snyder's, you see that he, with every step, he's impacting the earth, and it looks like the sense of power that you get out of the Flash in this is incredible. And someone pointed out on Twitter that it looks like he himself is moving the earth, not necessarily that he's running, but he himself is backtracking it or moving it forward, whatever he's doing with the Speed Force. It's just a very neat way in which he's putting us through the Speed Force as well with the Flash.
Probably the most surprising thing I saw in this trailer was Iris. I did not think she was any portion of this movie, but we do get, a small glimpse of Flash saving her, and they're looking at each other with googly eyes.
That's right.
And he's barefoot. Why is he barefoot? I don't know. Did his shoes disintegrate because he ran so fast? Ooh,
I don't know. We'll see.
I'm so smart. Oh my God.
The death of Silas as well is shown in this. It almost looks like he blew up very similar, same effect that they used for Dr. Manhattan when during his accident. It kind of has that same effect. Part of me thinks
Silas
I think it's a coincidence.
Dr. Manhattan.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what connection he could possibly put in there, especially now that we have Doomsday Clock and the Watchmen. It could just be a cool effect, but at the same time, Zach doesn't do anything out of coincidence. Everything means something. Right. So I don't know if that in itself was something for the future or something that they were going to do later on. Especially since you got the guy that directed Watchmen, why not? The universes are already connected, but that's just far off thinking if we ever get there. But that looked like an incredibly emotional scene for Cyborg and Silas. You see Steppenwolf right behind Cyborg during that. I don't know what he was doing to save his son and the mother box and keeping that from Steppenwolf's hands, but that story hasn't been told. We're going to get the Atom as well in this, and we don't know what his part in this was. It was obviously large if they cut it out and reshot it in Justice League, so where's he fit into this too?
I don't know who that is.
We didn't see him at all in Justice
I
League.
know. Oh, man, this is so exciting. So many more things. I'm sure as the weeks unravel leading up to this, people will analyze this trailer even more and find new things, and we'll just continue to unravel this amazing world before we actually get to see 4 hours of it on
Right.
HBO Max.
Well, we're not. I'm not even close to done with this thing.
Oh my
too.
God,
Well, we
I'm
got
sorry.
Desaad, who we got our first look at in this, which
is that Craggly
amazing.
face?
Well, he has the hood.
Oh, yeah.
You see him once in the trailer, and then you get Steppenwolf, as we saw him in Batman v Superman. We've done comparison shots. We know exactly which scene it was, and we're glad they were able to restore him to what we know him from in BVS. So that's going to be another thing. You see him facing off against Black Suit Superman in this. The final shot of them lined up, very different from what we got in Justice League. We see them, I'm assuming, get into Batman's helicarrier by the end of it, and not just them looking out into the landscape. That ending is going to be completely different on there. We don't see Martian Manhunter yet. We don't see the Green Lantern in this, but he's probably saving all of that for the final film.
You do also see the scene where Superman is hugging both Lois Lane
Yes.
and his mom in the cornfield
That's huge.
without his mustache CGI'd.
They I don't know why they fucking cut that out in Justice League, but that's going to be an amazing emotional scene for it.
I felt like they put that in that in the trailer just to show us all like, no.
Right. Like, I know he says he hasn't seen the film, but he has to know what was cut out.
Correct.
And what scenes mean a lot more now that he's restoring them.
I'm sure he's heard a lot from fans, right? You say all the time, they ask him like, in your cut, did this happen? And he's like, what are you talking about?
Right. And that's his way of not confirming things and telling us what's not in his cut of the film. This whole trailer was made up of scenes that we have not seen. None of it was footage that's like, oh yeah, I remember that from the original movie. It was all brand new material. Even the shot of Batman, which I thought was, I don't know why this part like got me really excited when I saw it, and I still love seeing it, but that badass shot of Batman blocking parademon shots, because I think you're also restoring Batman himself, who was this big joke and not Batman at all, definitely not the DCEU Batman that we knew from BVS. And now he's fighting parademons and he's fucking blocking shots from them. Like, this is going to be a Batman that can also fight alongside the rest of the League members against these fucking aliens, these demons, right?
Well, if you want to sit there and talk about, I mean, yes, I am very excited for Batman to just be a badass and not be joking the whole time. But you mentioned that these are all scenes that we haven't seen before. If you think 80% of the old movie was refilmed, right? What small number of minutes is actually in this movie that we have seen?
Right.
It's going to be, half an hour? If you're talking 20, I don't know. I can't math in my head that fast. But there's going to be very little in this movie that we have seen.
Right.
And so it's just going to feel like a brand new film, which is
Exactly
so
right.
exciting.
Exactly right. And one of the big changes too, is obviously we're going to get the full Cyborg arc. He is the heart of the film. He is the heart of the League, as Zach was saying too. But also in the Flash himself, you don't see him joking around like they, for whatever reason, wanted to make him one of the comedic characters along with the rest of the League in this. He gets that dialogue at the end. He's talking about this guy's fought demons, he's fought other worlds, and Batman's uniting the League in this way. But when you go back and you see Justice League and you see Ezra Miller's hair change during the reshoots, every time it changes to the reshoots, it's a joke that got put in there. And I don't think that's the Barry Allen we're going to get at all in this cut. And I don't think it should be, because Barry Allen, by his nature, he's not Wally West.
You're absolutely right. And I think probably my favorite part was Batman's line at the end, like, well, he hasn't fought us, united. And I'm like, yeah, unite the 7 bitches.
That's right. That's exactly what was on the back of the shirts too in one of the donation campaigns. Zach confirmed that his cut will be over 4 hours long, split into 4 parts, each an hour long on HBO Max. Right after they release them in parts, I'm assuming to retain a lot of the subscribers that they are getting together, that they will then release it as a full thing, a full movie, and then in the different collectors, the different everything.
Do you think they're going to release all 4 back to back, or do you think it's going to be like a month apart, a week apart?
Probably, I don't think it'll be a month apart, but I think it'll be at least a week apart. I wouldn't be shocked if it was every other week, but I think the soonest we'll get them is a week apart.
Either way, at least we're getting it, right? And that is what's most important. I'm sure at some point they'll release it on Blu-ray. I almost said DVD, showing my age here. We'll get it on Blu-ray, and then, y'all have to buy one and then buy another one to give to somebody.
On Twitter, Zach, for I think one of the very few times, publicly fired back at some of these bloggers and critics, fired back specifically at Scott Mendelson, who at first referred to that trailer, said, quote, "So that trailer for the Snyder Cut of Justice League looks like the same movie? Lots of deleted scenes from the marketing campaign, but otherwise, it looks like alternate takes of existing scenes," end quote.
Zach said, quote, "You said you enjoyed the theatrical cut of Justice League like you enjoy your Saturday morning cartoons. Well, this is made for grown-ups, so you're not in the demographic. Also, cool of you to comment on a leaked trailer," end quote.
And this was, at the time, the Snyder Cut trailer had leaked hours earlier before it went up on DC FanDome. So Scott did all the wrong things, in my opinion. And Zach, of course, being one of the first times that he actually publicly goes after someone that was trying to drag this whole project, now he is getting hated on for, no, you can't bully a company into releasing a version of a film that you wanted to see, but he also can't be doing any, no one can, but it's okay for Scott to be bullying, but Zach can't bully back.
Right.
It sends this message that once again, they're ready to campaign against Zach and all of this nonsense, but somewhere, someone in the movement that is connected to Zach, I'm assuming, especially after Zach did this, the whole message of this has changed from, initially it was, ignore the haters, we got what we wanted, this is fine. But now we're getting, well, we ignored them and let them speak and set the narrative back when BVS was releasing. We need to now fight back against these narratives and not let them once again set the narrative for the Snyder Cut. So I think that's a huge message from Zach of saying, no, when we see this stuff, we got to call it out. Enough of that bullshit, because if we don't call it out, they're not going to think twice next time when they want to release that story or release that review.
I think something else to consider through all of this that I've experienced personally is there's a lot of people who don't realize there's another cut to this movie. So I was talking to somebody the other day, and you had been texting me at the time. And so I just mentioned, oh, have you seen the Justice League, the movie that came out? And she's like, oh, yeah, my husband and I saw it, and it was terrible. I was like, well, let me tell you the way it was supposed to be. Now you have this opportunity to see it. This is the whole movement. This is what was behind it. So, yes, push back against the people who are saying it's the same movie. They just added deleted scenes. Like, get out of here. We did not add 2 hours of, they were deleted, but for the wrong reasons. It's a completely different movie. But make sure you're educating people too. And it doesn't have to be attacking of, well, how do you not know about this? Or, oh, you enjoyed the first one. That's dumb. Just be like, this is what it was meant to be.
Right.
Here's a better version. Here's where you can see it. Right? This is what we've done to get to this point. And even if you can't go into just putting that in their mind that there's another, this is what it should have been from the beginning.
Exactly right. And I think this is a huge opportunity to do that. And I applaud Zach as well for calling this kind of behavior out. And I think that's what it's going to have to be moving forward. We got a retweet from @RT Snyder Cut for this particular news story for the trailer, for the Snyder Cut trailer, inviting people to chime in and give us your thoughts on the Snyder Cut trailer. So huge thanks. And here's the first one from @ManUnited0710.
He said, quote, "The incredible shot of the league standing side by side together. Pristine," end quote.
We asked everyone which part you were most excited for, which part got you hyped, and which part you loved. That was amazing. Seeing Black Suit Superman, seeing the rest of the Justice League in their proper grading, right? And not in that super hyper color that they ended up using. It looked incredible in that one of the final shots.
Our next quote comes from @SteasModus.
They said, quote, "Finally getting a continuation of the nightmare, the thing WB seemed to want to push aside the most, and it's the thing that intrigued me the most about Snyder's vision," end quote.
Was very cool.
Nightmare scene, I know we're going to get more Nightmare Batman. I can't wait to see Nightmare Flash, Nightmare Cyborg in this, and any other League members. Maybe that is going to be Justice League 2. I don't know what they're going to end up doing, but that was an amazing world that we got a glimpse of in BVS.
Our next quote comes from @Hamadajin,
who said, quote, "The Batman dialogue at the end, it hit me in so many levels as a member of this incredible community," end quote.
because we were united and we brought it about.
It was something that RT Snyder Cut has constantly been saying on Twitter of, you did this. This was something that everyone did. This is what Snyder was basically saying from the beginning of, it's up to us if we want to get this. And everyone made it happen. Anyone that, as I don't think it was Zach, but someone else was saying on, I think one of the roundtables of, even if one person tweeted out, like, you helped made this happen.
Well, for me, that quote too, and I've said it to you multiple times, is it took me right back to Unite the Seven, right? Because that's what it was in the very beginning. And then it just disappeared. And we all wondered, where did that go? Where did, that quote, where was that campaign? It was gone. And now we know why, because it completely got changed. But again, taking me right back to the very beginning of before all of this happened. And it just kind of feels like no time has passed. That's a lie.
Yeah.
So much time has passed. But it really bridged that time very well together for me.
Next quote here comes from @Holy DC Trinity, who said, quote,
"This part, heart, the mirroring from Clark seeing his dad die in Man of Steel, now Cyborg experiencing the same. So happy for @Ray8Fisher to have his character fully realized in the Snyder Cut," end quote.
That's very true. That's going to be another connection that people are going to be making between Man of Steel and Justice League. And I'm sure that he interwove a lot of the previous two movies into this one.
Oh, I'm sure. There's no way he didn't.
Next one comes from @Mick Capo, who said, quote,
"We get Batfleck back, who's not watered down by corny one-liners. The last line in the trailer solidified my expectations for his arc of calculated tactician and leader of a diverse and fleshed-out team," end quote.
True Batman, not one that is splintering the league by getting into fights with every single one of them, saying, is that what Steve Trevor, blah, blah, none of that in here. This is going to be a leader who is going to unite the league and not a dislikable Batman, like for whatever reason they decided they needed to make in Justice League.
It's the Batman we deserve.
Right. And the one we need.
And the one we need.
Next one here is from @JeremyORR13.
Quote, "It looks like the Flash was treated with more respect as opposed to being made into a comic relief. Plus, seeing Iris put a smile on my face," end quote.
Absolutely true.
Me too.
Cannot wait for us to see the Flash properly in this film. That's how I'm going to see all these characters that we're getting for the first time really on the big screen. It's like, no, this is their true iteration. Last one here comes from @Lane_CHM, who says, quote,
"Probably the uniting of Clark, Lois, and Martha in the field. The emotion is on point. It's going to be a great moment," end quote.
Cannot wait. We have touched on that as well, and that's going to be a huge part for Superman. I'm guessing this happens earlier in the film as well, unlike what they were saying in Justice League. So that'll have a different emotional impact once you see it and where it fits in this particular film's timeline.
Real talk. Be for real with me. Did you tear up the first time you saw this?
I didn't tear up, but I still couldn't really believe it. It didn't feel real, and it still doesn't in many ways until I guess we maybe are sitting down and actually watching it. And even then, it'll still feel a little bit surreal.
Overall, I'm so grateful that we've gotten to this point, right? That this is actually going to happen. All the hard work that has gone into petitioning for this and digging up all these things and bringing these things to light and getting to this point. But the passion that's still behind it is just, I think, what's most impressive to me, because it wasn't just like, oh, we got it, great, we did our job. Like, it's no, okay, now we need to keep fighting for it. We need to call out these people who are saying these things. We need to continue supporting this vision, and HBO Max, which is a wonderful, fantastic service that everyone should have in their homes.
I want to give a huge thanks also to everyone that chimed in with these news stories, because it's always great to hear from everyone in not just the Snyder Cut movement, but anyone that loves this medium of superheroes and DC Comics and all of that. Final question here, and I put it in the news story because it relates to all of these blessings that we're getting from the film universe side of things. And it comes from @MacTheMurderer, who asked, quote, "Question for the pod. Do you think the negatives of the Warner Brothers AT&T merger, things going on with DC Comics aside, job losses, another big media giant, outweigh the positives, Snyder Cut, HBO Max, etc.?" End quote.
I don't know that I could sit there and say one outweighs the other. To me, there's still two very separate things, the movies and the comics. And anytime there's a merger, things are going to happen, right? There's going to be negatives, there's going to be positives. So am I happy that the positives are this positive? Absolutely. But they very easily couldn't have been this positive. So, just because we got the best of the best, it doesn't necessarily outweigh the negative things that are happening. And those negatives on the comic side, I don't think we're really going to see or feel for at least another year. It's going to be a little bit of time before all that really comes to light. It's not like it happened overnight from their end, but it just takes that time to trickle down to us. So I don't know that I can really answer this question.
I think we've been saying this for the last couple of episodes already, and I hate to say it again, but in a year, we'll know for sure like what the positives and negatives really feel like. In a year, we'll know if we're getting any more from the Snyderverse, and we'll know what the state of comics is from DC's side. Right now, if I answer it right now, and I'd say right now the positives do outweigh the negatives because we're still getting comic books, we're still getting new issues solicited for the moment, but things can change next week. I don't really know. Like if they were to completely cut out physical books, I might have a different answer for you. But as of this moment, yes, the positives right now outweigh the negatives.
I would be on that same boat as well. Yeah. Until they fire everybody.
Right. And we feel for everyone that did lose their job. That's a huge loss, but there were a lot of jobs also gained from this merger, such as everyone that worked on Zack Snyder's Justice League and are getting these different projects now because of AT&T, and we're getting this multiverse happening and all of these, DC FanDome itself created some jobs for many people. So again, it's give and take in all aspects of it.
But thank you so much, Mac the Murderer, for the question. If you have a question at any week, send it on over to @ReasonsI'mBroke @PaulPacelli, and you could be featured on the show.
Let's head into our thank yous to those of you who make the show possible. This week, it is our Patreon shout-outs.
We have 4 shout-outs this week. The first one goes out to Corey B. on Twitter @ComicTropolis.
Corey's been celebrating the Snyder Cut and DC FanDome. Also helped champion Ben Affleck's win on the IMDb poll.
Yeah.
Even though there were bots involved in trying to get Christian Bale up higher, there was something like 4,000 votes that all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere within 10 minutes. And we're like, yeah, fuck even the bots. We're going to fucking do this. Zach put out the call on Vero as well. And Ben Affleck ended up winning the IMDb poll. Whatever they need to use with that information, if Zach obviously was pushing for it as well, it's for a reason. So huge celebration and huge thanks to Corey.
Next up, we have Shane M. on Twitter @S_Miller_27.
Shane's been cracking open sports card booster boxes via his Twitter and his Discord.
Cool.
So if you're into booster pack openings on the sports side especially, make sure to follow Shane. I know he's put up his Discord link on his Twitter account as well. He also retweeted a tweet from the White Sox, which is awesome. That's my team right there. Really appreciate that. It was a home run that they scored, I think, earlier today or at least earlier this week.
Next up is Abdul Red Haji on Twitter @RGangadfar.
He retweeted, quote, the Snyder Cut account that said, quote, an alien, a rich man, a fast man, a goddess, a fish man, and a robot man fight to save the world in a 4-hour work of art brought to life by millions of dedicated fans around the world, end quote.
Amazing.
That sums it up right there.
I like how she's a goddess. She's better than all of them, clearly.
2020.
And our last shout out goes out to Manu on Twitter @ManUnited0710.
In reference to Cavill's performance in the Snyder Cut trailer, Manu tweeted, quote, the anguish and pain on the face of Henry Cavill is incredible. He killed this damn thing, end quote. Another performance I can't wait to see the full portion of when we get Black Suit Superman, a different resurrected Superman than what we got in Justice League.
So thank you so much, Corey B., Shane M., Abdul Red Haji, and Manu for your Patreon support.
If you would like your shout out as well every single month, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. For a minimum of $1 a month, you too can get your shout out.
But of course, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do is let somebody else know about it. Tell them about the Snyder it's all mixing together now. Tell them about Zack Snyder's Justice League, and then tell them about our show and just be like, listen, they're going to talk a whole lot about it, and you should just tune in.
Let's head into the weekly portion of today's episode. It is our comic book highlight as voted on by you.
This week we have Batman the Three Jokers number 1 of 3. This is a DC Black Label book written by Jeff Johns, art by Jason Fabok, and the colorist is Brad Anderson. That is a very vanilla colorist name.
we read him off pretty often, though.
His name should be Branderson.
That all right? Someone in their 20s definitely came up with that one, and that is a colorist name, though. That works out.
It's the perfect colorist name.
That is also my ex-friend, Jeff Johns.
Oh, yes.
But once again, proving that he should stick to the comic books and maybe not mess around with the show or film side, because this was an excellent issue and an excellent start to the first issue of Batman Three Jokers, first started on back in the New 52, I think.
Ooh.
With the Justice League. Batman sitting in the Mobius chair, and he asks for the Joker's real name, and the Mobius chair tells him something that he cannot believe, and that is that there are 3 Jokers. It continues in his run, and it was in Doomsday Clock, and now we're getting that long delayed 3 issues. I don't know if it's the original story that Jeff intended, because it seems like it's not very connected right now to Doomsday Clock. It's instead a grounded story between Bruce, Barbara, and Jason.
This review will have a lot of spoilers, so if you haven't read this yet, go ahead and skip ahead. But I like this issue a lot more than I thought I would. When you told me that, because you posed the question, right? Do you think it's 3 different personalities, or do you think it's actually 3 Jokers? When you told me, and here's the spoiler, that it's legitimately 3 Jokers, I was like, nah, Batman's gone and done it. What are they doing? Why would they? This makes no sense. And they actually set it up in a pretty interesting way that I think by the end of this, we're going to be back down to 1 Joker. But it does, kind of make a little more sense than I thought it would.
The 3 iterations seem to be, I think, what we were all kind of guessing and all kind of knew of. The original Joker, which wasn't as jokey, and that's the one that I guess is the leader of these 3. You also get the Killing Joke one, and I think we're going to get him in issue 2, which will involve Barbara and her maybe murdering the Joker. And then we're also, I think that's also the same. No, that's not the same one. So there's also the one that's featured in this one is the one that killed Jason Todd, which I guess that one is the Killing Joke one. I was a little confused as to which one was which. The one that killed Jason Todd might just be the 70s era Joker, and then the Killing Joke will be the more modern one. It's not quite clear yet.
No, so I got the impression that the one that killed Jason Todd was the more modern one.
Okay.
And that the 70s era one was the leader of the Jokers. He's probably the oldest one who's been around for forever, because he definitely looked older and he had a more clear and concise plan of what they needed to do. And then you had the Killing Joke one, who we haven't seen. We saw him, but he hasn't gone up against the Bat family yet.
From the 3 murders that occurred, the one that murdered the gangster family, I'm assuming, is the Killing Joke's setup, because he obviously didn't like that part of his life, and it's kind of what ruined him and his wife when he was trying to become a comedian in the Killing Joke, from what I remembered.
You don't think he's the one who killed the comedian?
Oh, well, yeah, it could be it too. Unless...
So I assume that the old 70s Joker was the one who killed the mobster family, because mobsters are like old families, and he probably had some beef to pick with them for forever. And then the Killing Joke one was the one who killed the comedian, because fuck comedians, he's a failed comedian, and they make a reference to that. And then I forget who the last guy, the Red Hood one was the one who killed and dressed up the Red Hood guys.
So, well, that also could be the Killing Joke, though, because, well, the Red Hood was also involved in the old-time Joker as well.
I don't know. Listen, we could sit here all night debating this.
I think we'll figure it out. The important thing is I legitimately think that there are 3, not imposters, that there are 3 eras of Joker in this story. I don't think this is going to be and I know the police were speculating, all right, but which one was the real Joker, or which one is actually committing these crimes? There's no way he was in 3 places at once, and literally he was, even though it's different forms of him. And I think for this story, though, mainly focused on Jason.
This first one definitely did. think that it was interesting because throughout the story, they're talking about making another Joker. So what it almost seems like to me is that Jokers keep throwing people in vats and sometimes they survive. And when they survive, it's very much like the Joker himself. And that kind of even leads itself into, you know, when you say Joker has escaped Arkham, has he really? Like, is it just another Joker that's popping up and running around and the other two, one's still in Arkham and he escapes at a later time because nobody's watching him now because they already assumed he escaped, right? And so then he's able to get out and laying low. And who's the Harley's Joker? That's what I want to see is like, is she going to show up and just be like, nah, this is a Joker? But I did really like that Jason Todd pointed out, you know, we never know his name, right? We never really look at him. So, you know, he's looking at one of the Jokers and he's like, is he skinnier? Has he lost weight? It's like, yeah, they're three different people and you don't really know because he's being cuckoo crazy. And so you're just trying to, you know, stop him and you're not really paying attention to these things.
Do you think that all of these existed during more or less this timeline and it's not necessarily multiverse Joker type of thing where somehow they got pulled by Dr. Manhattan from these different Earths?
No, I don't think the way they've set up this first issue, I don't think they would do that. I really think it's people that the original Joker has tried to kill in a vat of whatever with Joker toxin or whatever, and for whatever reason they've survived and they become very much Joker-like. And so, I mean, old man Joker can chill out and this Joker can go ahead and do whatever he's going to do, and then they all go to the little cabin in the woods to be in love or whatever they're doing in there.
That'd be insane if we get like a retelling of, for example, the Killing Joke version and the original Joker is involved in that, you know, in that plot of it with his wife or whatever. Like, I don't know, like that'd be kind of crazy because you would read these stories very differently.
Right.
And I don't think it means that it ruins them or anything like that. I think it adds another layer of, if you want to dive deeper into this story, here's another explanation to how these things happen. And I don't think Jeff is going to nail it down to this is who these characters actually are.
Right.
Because they're always going to, I think, keep the Joker more or less abstract. And I think that's going to be the point of this story at the very end of it. But I think talking more about this plot and Jason Todd, he broke him down like the weak Robin that he is. It was so easy for this Joker to say, you told me one of your pleads was, I'll be your Robin. And he laughs at him. And I was fucking laughing at him. Like, that's how, I know it's sad and it's tragic and it's desperate, but it's also like fucking Jason Todd. Like, what a weak ass Robin. I don't think any of the other Robins would ever say that shit or get to that level of, I guess, desperation. I don't know. But he tells him, you're running around making a mockery of the Robin suit and you're killing people. You are my Robin. That's what you became. And that's what breaks Jason.
Now I feel even worse for Jason. I wasn't feeling bad, but now I feel really bad for him. Yeah, I don't think I really expected anything else from Jason. Like, yeah, he gets the opportunity to shoot Joker in the head. Of course he's going to do that. And then, Batgirl says she tries to stop him, but she doesn't really.
Do you think in the next one she'll end up paralyzing him like he paralyzed her?
Potentially. I think she'll do something fucked up to him for sure. And
then the last issue will be Batman. Yep. And if he goes to that level, just like the rest of them.
Batman's not going to go to the level just like the rest of them.
He's not going to be, he almost choked the Killing Joke one, right? Is that, no, he didn't, never mind. In the animated one he does, but in the comic I still stand firm by, I think it was the artist who was saying that wasn't our intention, but that's cool that people think that.
They were just laughing together,
that maybe that's going to be the ending of that one where they both share a laugh again, like in the Killing Joke, although I think Barbara's that Joker will be in the second story.
Yeah, I think the next one we're going to see is going to be Barbara, and then the third one's going to be the 70s era leader of all the Jokers. That's going to come in, ultimately, I think, be more sinister than the other two because he has been Joker the longest. You don't see him smile in this. You don't see him laughing. He's not making any jokes. He is very much an established Joker and he's probably the most terrifying.
Could be. They're all they're all very scary in their own ways. I'm excited to see more. This was a very, very solid issue. I really enjoyed it. Again, goes to show, like, whatever we may feel about Jeff and his behaviors outside of it, he can write damn good comic books.
Yeah, I will say I definitely enjoyed this much more than I thought I would. So if you're on the fence about it, I say at least pick up this first issue.
Available at your local comic shop in like 6 different covers, so you can pick out your different favorite ones. And if at the very least there's an A and a B cover that should be available at most comic shops.
We didn't talk about the Joker shark. He was cool. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, he was very cool.
We can keep on moving.
Final portion of today's episode, it is the Broket Block.
This is what happened with Daniel and I in our week. Did you have anything important, fun, amazing, super cool happen?
Tenet, we're going to be able to watch. I'm excited for it. It's coming in as a limited release at our local theaters, and we're actually going to work to set aside some time and go on a date night and be able to watch Tenet in theaters, as Christopher Nolan definitely wants everyone to see it.
It's like an 8:30 p.m. showing, though, so I definitely think I'll be falling asleep.
Probably is. And if it's Nolan, it's going to be a longer film.
Yeah, it is. But very, very excited. I know you've been waiting for this for a long time, so we will be taking all the safety precautions we need to, but very excited to go out and see this movie.
Movie theater popcorn, sitting there, big screen. Cannot wait. It's exactly how I like to see my movies.
Mm-hmm.
How about you? How was your week?
My week was good, continuing with work, right? But I angry cleaned the house today. I don't know. I woke up cranky and in a mood, and then Leo was in a mood too. And I was like, I'm just going to clean the whole house. And he kept trying to hit me with a pool noodle. And I'm like, I'm cleaning, Leo. Do you want to help me? And then he'd go away. He was done with me. But while he was napping and I was folding 4 baskets of laundry, I did watch the first episode of season 5 for Lucifer.
What'd you think?
Oh man, it was so good. So they only have 8 episodes out right now, but I guess every episode is 56 minutes long. They're long ass episodes. Cause I was like, man, 8 episodes, 20 minutes. Nah. It's 8 hours of Lucifer and I'm so ready. But the first episode, they always do a great job of recapping when you go into the next season. So they recapped pretty much the whole last season. So I could be like, oh yeah, that's what happened before we were gone for a year or however long it's been since I got it. And I tweeted out by the end of the first episode, I was surprised Pikachu face. I was like, what? What's going on? And so now I'm halfway through episode 2, not even, a quarter of a way through episode 2, and I'm still surprised Pikachu face. I'm like, what's happening?
How many more seasons are we getting after this?
1 more, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
So at least another 8 hours on top of all this.
Well, this is part 1 of part 2, so I think wasn't season 5 split into 2 parts is what they said?
Yeah, and then you're going to get a whole nother season.
Correct.
That's insane. You got a lot of Lucifer content.
I'm so ready. It's so good. The only thing I will say is they changed Detective Beckett's hair and she looks so old and I don't like it.
One thing Netflix was saying, though, and we don't know their stats really, we don't really have access to them, but they were saying this was their most popular thing on Netflix that week.
This is, so it popped up on our smart TV, right? I scrolled over to the Netflix and it's watch Lucifer, but Lucifer gets streamed all the time. It's in their top 10 shows all the time. Tom Ellis just does a great job, even more so because he's playing 2 different characters in this season.
That's cool.
And I'm just give this man an Oscar. Even his body language changes when he switches between the 2 characters and everything. It's wild. He does a great job.
I want to get one the biggest Neil Gaiman Lucifer comic fan and be like, so what do you think about this show? Just to hear their anger,
no,
what the fuck, no,
no, it's a terrible show.
Anything else that you got to see? I'm glad you got to see some Lucifer.
Yeah, I was really excited. No, nothing else. Leo's being a little 3-year-old almost. Definitely some challenging times with him, but listen, he's great. He's adorable. He's happy and healthy, and what more could we ask for?
I think the only thing I have as far as the comic shop is things are solid. Sales are awesome. The 3 Jokers obviously helped for today, but I know a lot of people ask us, are you guys making it through okay during the pandemic and during the weird publishing times? And yeah, business is very solid, and I'm very grateful for that. And because of that, I do have a gig today, and, we're not worried about, we need to make this much today, because if not, that's not a question right now. The owner is very pleased with how the store is doing, and I think I've said it last week, but that's one portion that we at least don't have to worry about.
I did forget something super amazing happened this week. Pumpkin spice lattes.
Came at your local coffee shop, right?
They
the one
sure
you work
did.
for.
It was a great day. Super busy. We did 30% up from the previous year. Just a wild day, and I am all about pumpkin.
Well, I will tell you now that since Wawa did not retweet my selfie of celebrating that pumpkin spice was at Wawa, and this was before I tasted it, I took it and I put it up, and you told me, how was it? Because you knew how what I thought about it. And I'm not a fan of Wawa's pumpkin spice, whatever, hot coffee. It doesn't taste like pumpkin at all. It tastes like regular coffee and not even like Wawa regular coffee. Because for that, I would have gotten the Colombian one, which is my favorite. They replaced my blueberry one with this pumpkin one that doesn't taste like pumpkin anyway. I know, first world problems, but I know it pleases you to know
It sure does.
that one of Wawa's coffees is not as good as one of your coffees.
It sure does, because you're always going on and on about your Wawa.
It's so good.
And you won't come to my shop to get my free coffee that I'm going to give you.
Right.
You don't want to support me and my business.
Am I paying for it though? Really? Like,
I pay for it a lot of times.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Okay, but the money still goes back to me.
Well, are you making a profit even after your discount?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You don't want to support me. You want to go to Wawa and get your Wawa coffee.
Well, it's not taken away really
and
from you.
Not come see your wife.
Well, last time we came, you were hyper busy at the store, and I'm like, I don't
always
know.
hyper busy.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. So I'm taking you away. You're that busy at your store now that I think I'm helping by not taking you away from your store.
That's a lie. You just
That's not
don't
a
like
lie.
my
That's
coffee. You just
legitimately
don't
why-
like my coffee.
Well, no, because I used to stop in for Leo's cookie and everything. And last time we did, it was like, I don't know if she's coming out with your cookie, Leo, and you were just really, really busy.
I mean, I'm always busy, but if I see your text, I make time and come out and see you. He just doesn't like my coffee, guys.
All right. Well, I'll probably like your pumpkin coffee better than Wawa's.
You sure will.
Unless the pumpkin coffee is somehow worse, even, then you have a shot against having a better coffee than Wawa.
Yes, I can't wait. I think my coffee's way better than Wawa.
But thanks to DC FanDome, we hope you enjoyed this extra long episode for today. A lot of celebration of all things DC. It is a great time to be a DCEU fan, especially, but also DC Comics, because there's a lot of news that came out of it outside of just the Snyderverse, and there was tons that we got to celebrate today.
If there's something that you really enjoyed that we didn't talk about on the show, let us know on Twitter at Reasons I'm Broke, at Kelli, so we can celebrate with you.
So thank you all so much for joining us today. I've been Arena Tycoon Daniel.
And I'm your Emperor Kelli.
And Brokehead Core. All will be well. I did not forget. We overlooked it on the notes, but there wasn't really a way to go back to it except right now in this like post-credits thing. We got some reactions from the Batman teaser trailer from two Brokeheads. The first one's from @Jimbo19934, who said, quote, 2 days since this drop, and it still stays with me in my dreams, end quote. A lot of people reference that Nirvana song that was used in the trailer. People love this trailer. They really do, including Jimbo.
We also have one from @Kiona Tang, who said, quote, I liked it a lot. After that vicious beatdown Pattinson's Batman unleashed on that thug, I was sold, end quote.
I think that was the selling point for many people out there. When this multiverse happens, though, I hope that Pattinson Batman doesn't come across Batfleck, because it's going to be a very different outcome at that point.
Poor Pattinson.
I'd be okay with Alfred, all Alfreds helping out Pattinson, beaten up by Batfleck. Like, that'd be a cool scene too. Like, every Alfred is needed.
Every single Alfred.